Hey there, welcome back to our Becoming a Leader series. And I get this question a lot, like, how do I become a leader if I don't have a job title, if my title doesn't say manager or supervisor or something like that? And you probably have heard me say this before, but I'm just going to keep repeating it because I think it's that important that you don't have to wait for a job title to become a leader. Like, just start being one and start getting used to stepping out of your comfort zone and trying new things, and that will help you. Like, the job title will follow, so know that. So how do you get started today regardless of what your job title says? um the other thing before we go any further, though, I think sometimes there's this misconception that, like, well, if I want to be a leader, I have to be loud and outgoing and kind of always the center of attention and always the one out front. And um sometimes that works for people if that's how your personality is, but if that's not your normal personality, then don't try to pretend, because it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to pretend to be somebody that you're not. So, if you are extroverted in that way, then yes, that's the way that you should be leading. But if you are more of an introvert, like, some of the best leaders that I know are introverts, and they are awesome leaders because they are observant, they listen, they analyze, they think really critically about different things before they move forward. And so, one isn't better than the other, it's just like different superpowers. And so lean into which one really fits you. There's also this other thing, we can talk about it some other time, called the centrovert, which is people who are kind of like introverts and extroverts, and depending on the situation, they may go one way or the other. That's also, like, definitely a superpower, and those people might need to take a little bit more time thinking about their leadership styles to, like, what they prefer, like, which way they want to follow. But that tangent. Get back on focus, Emily. We'll talk about that a different time. But so, what can you do today, right? The first thing is use your strengths. Like I said, think about, and if you haven't thought about what your strengths are in a while, then, like, write it down and sort of think for a few minutes, like, what are you really great at? What are the couple of things that, like, you really shine doing? And once you write those down, or if you already know them, then think about ways that you can try to make that happen at work, or how to have that shine through in a project. Or maybe you decide to take on a project or join a committee or something like that based on your interest in a particular thing. That's how you let that, like, the light inside of you really shine, and people will gravitate towards that. The second thing that you want to do is just be strategic. So, when are people paying attention? When do you see people who are, like, in a broader sense, either in your organization or in another organization, or on a different team, things like that? I was talking with somebody recently, and she said, well, I don't, like, I'm always showing up to meetings right on time, but I really want to have my voice heard because I'm working on, I want to be promoted in my current role. And so, one really great opportunity is when you're on these meetings, whether they're in person or online, especially when the people that you're working with are out, maybe, it's like a bigger department meeting or a bigger organizational meeting, and show up 5 to 10 minutes early and be a part of some of those conversations at the very beginning of the meeting, because you don't know who's on, and maybe you'll make a new friend, which is great, which sounds kind of weird saying that in this setting, but friends are good. But maybe that friend is a part of a different department who will tell their manager that you seem like you have your stuff together, and that you should be considered for the position that's coming open whenever. Or maybe that manager will hear you say something, but especially if you don't, in those larger meetings, once the meeting gets started, you don't really have the opportunity to say anything, then being a part of that beginning conversation is a great place to start making some of those connections. But you just have to think about where are those opportunities in your current organization, and where can you take advantage of that. The third thing, be persistent. You have to be persistent when you want your life to change. It doesn't just happen naturally. Oh man, sometimes I say things out loud and I realize that, like, I need to hear them just as badly as you maybe do, and my hair's doing funny things. Sorry. I really have to fix this. Okay. Persistence. I'm heading out on vacation, and so if that's why I think my brain is a little bit like this right now. Okay, but after the meeting, follow up. Like, if you have a really great idea for this department meeting and you didn't get to have your voice heard, then like follow up with an email or a phone call, or swing by somebody's office if you're in person and say like, hey, I really think that we missed this one spot, or have you thought about this, or what about that? Because you maybe didn't have the opportunity to say anything during the meeting, but you have a really great idea and you can still contribute in some way. And maybe the person will say, we've already thought of that, or hey, that's a really great idea, or maybe they won't be open to it, but you don't know until you try. And sometimes you have to just like keep trying to see where you can get a little bit of leverage and a little bit of room, or like my friend Beth says, where the door opens a little bit, and so then you can like try to keep peeling that open and see where it takes you. Or another way to be persistent is just to like stand up for people who are maybe getting overlooked. So maybe you're in a meeting and someone starts talking and the meeting leader is like talking over them because of the Zoom lag or whatever. And you can say like, hey, hold on a second. I think Cal was trying to say something. Can we stop? And then that gives you're standing up for somebody whose voice is being sort of like run over, and probably not intentionally. The meeting leader probably doesn't even recognize it, but you're at least making the room for somebody else to say something. And that's another, like, I'd say that's like kind of quiet leadership. Like, you're not like in people's faces like, I'm a leader today, but you are quietly showing that like you value everybody's opinion, and people will take notice of that. And that's the cool thing about becoming a leader and like working on your leadership skills before you have a title, is that you get to decide what kind of leader you want to be and like what that looks like. And sometimes your organization, maybe you'll have somebody, like we talked about last week, finding a mentor. Maybe you've got somebody in your organization that is like somebody who you want to work towards being like, but sometimes your organization doesn't have the kind of people that you want to emulate in it. And that's okay. Like, the cool thing is you get to start being that person, and you get to start saying like, no, we're going to stop. We're going to like make sure everybody's voice is heard. It seems like a very small thing, but it's a really big thing, and it's a huge thing for the person who gets to have their voice heard. And that's where you start to make changes, and that's where you start to see shifts, and that's where you the thing about being a leader and like doing these sorts of things is this is a long game play, right? Like, you might not see any kind of change tomorrow. You might not see any change a week from now, or even 2 weeks from now, or a month from now. But these are the sorts of things that like when you keep doing them and keep showing up for yourself and showing up for other people, like that's when like it will pay off in the long run. I can't tell you if it'll pay off in like your current organization, or if you may have to at some point find a different organization. We can talk about that later. But hopefully people in your current organization will recognize what you are bringing to the table and will promote that and honor that. But this is long game stuff. But in the end, like, I think, at least in my experience, when I always feel better about myself, and I feel better that I've helped other people when I have worked on these skills, even if it doesn't like change my title, at least on that day, because it does change your title eventually. All right, that's what I've got for today. I hope that you are doing well. Remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to other people. Life is still really weird, and we need to remember to just give everybody some grace still and some kindness, because we all need it. All right, keep rocking, and I'll see you back here soon.